Bangkorai Lore, Part 1. A Life Barbaric and Brutal by Hercene Belloc. Chapter 1. Abducted by the Reachmen. I was born in Hercene's hamlet just north across the river from Evermore. My mother was a weaver, and my father was a boat builder who made small fishing smacks and coracles for river trade. I remember my youth as a happy one, playing around on the docks where father worked, or hunting through the nearby woods for etmola caps and hickory nuts. It was while doing the latter one day that I strayed a bit further from the hamlet than usual, pushed my way through a briar thicket, and suddenly found myself staring at a pair of human skulls. Startled, I shrieked and dropped my basket of nuts. By the time I realized what I'd seen was a skull and a staff next to a woman's face painted like a skull, I'd been knocked down, bound, and thrown over her shoulder. I was borne away to the north, away from my home and into the mountains. I began to kick and scream, at which the woman threw me down, bound me tighter, and gagged me into the bargain. Then she resumed, carrying me off into the wild. Eventually, I passed out from sheer exhaustion. When I awoke, it was dark, but I could see forms in the dance of the firelight. Silhouettes sporting horns, bones, spikes, feathers. Reachmen. I closed my eyes and tried to wake up, but it was no nightmare. When I opened my eyes, they were still there. My gag was gone, so I cried out for water. The skull-faced woman, whom I later learned was called Veonch, brought me a cup. She checked my bonds, and where I winced in pain, she actually loosened them a little. This surprised me, as I'd always heard that the Reach clans were barbarians, wicked Daedra worshippers who revelled in cruelty. Maybe once they realized how distressed I was, they would set me free and send me home. It was a false hope. I was to be the captive of the Crow-Wife clan for the next 8 years. The Reachmen were far more complex than I'd been led to believe in my Breton home. But one thing, we were right. Barbarism and cruelty are everyday facts of life in the Reach. Veonch was a horse breeder who'd abducted me because she needed a slave to tend her livestock, since her former thrall had died of a kick to the head. She'd given me water and loosened my bonds solely out of concern for the condition of her new possession. Veonch's clan was ruled by a Hargraven named Clovadra, a claw-fingered crone who was a witch shaman of considerable power. She was a priestess of Namira, the spirit Daedra, the lady of the ancient darkness who commands the most repulsive vermin such as spiders, insects, slugs, and serpents. Because Namira is the mistress of small pests, the Reachmen call her the children's god, though they are not without humour, though their jests are always malicious. At every 2 moons dark, Clovadra would draw lots at random from the children of the clan, both Reach and slave, to select a sacrifice to the goddess of the dark. The chosen child would end up in the ever-oozing altar, where Clovadra would cut out its heart as an offering to Namira. Every time I was sure it would be me, but the name feather withdrawn was always of another. Clovadra's hag husband was a crude and vicious man named Columthek. He was a grave singer, a witchman shaman who could command the dead. In our land we'd have called him a necromancer. He was always looking sideways at Veonch and licking his lips, as at a savoury roast fowl. Though he had power in the clan and was feared by all, Veonch treated him with disdain, which would sometimes provoke him into sending hoot haunts into her tent at night, or hexing the horse's oats with wrytheworm. Veonch never turned a hair, just threatened to complain about Corinthek to his hag wife Clovadra, which always sent him packing. Life was hard in the Reach. The Crow-Wife was a hunting clan, so our life followed the herds across the wastes. It was a rugged and perilous existence, where life could be snuffed out in a heartbeat by the antlers of an elk buck or the fangs of a saber cat. But what I feared most were the semi-annual crossings of the Karth River in the wake of the tundra herds. It was my job to help Voanche and her useless daughter swim the horses across the ice-cold swirling current, and every time I was certain it would be my last. How I wish I'd learned to swim in the river like my two brothers whenever the Karth had me in its grip. Occasionally, during a crossing, one of the horses would panic and break free of us, which usually meant drowning and death for it. Then Voanche and I would search far downstream until we found where its body had washed up, so we could skin it and unmake the dead horse for its valuable fat, flesh, and bones. Nothing was wasted amongst the Reachmen. It was during my 6th summer as a slave of the Crowwives, and I had crossed the hated Karth 11 times, that I began to attract the unwanted attentions of Anakult, the loutish son of Kvadra and Corinth. He expressed his attraction to me by pushing me into mud puddles or putting dead voles in my stew. He was a year younger than me, but I soon knew that he would want me to be the object of more than just practical jokes. As the son of the Hargraven, he could pretty much do whatever he wanted with impunity, and Voanche couldn't protect me by complaining to Kvadra. The old virago would just cackle and wave her away. So, at night, when I should have been sleeping in my pile of furs, I started making a spear. Aspects of Lord Hercene, Oral Traditions of the Reachmen, No. 5, by Juno Procillus, Academy of Coral. The following is the transcribed statement of the shaman Duradach, who named himself Arakanach, or the Witchman. Like the fingers of your hand, like the clutch of the Hargraven, like the arrows to kill a bear, 5 are the aspects of Lord Hercene. You may meet any of the 5, and all are true and right and death in the woods. All are worthy of reverence. You may meet the hunter, who is invoked as Alabrag. He bears the spear of bitter mercy. He comes here from the hunting grounds to hunt new prey, or he brings prey native to the hunting grounds, like the unicorn, to hunt in new forests. If he brings not prey, then woe betide you who meet him, for he may dub you the hare. Then you must flee as best you can, though you will not escape. You may meet the man-beast who is invoked as Storebeg. He wears the wolf skull totem, and his growl is like a landslide in the Karth Gorge. He comes here to hunt with his children, the skin shifters, or to adopt new children and turn them pelt-side out. His howl will freeze you inwards like a pond in the evening star at midnight, and you will see your death approach, but be unable to flee. You might meet the great stag, who is invoked as Orakanbeg, and whose hooves drum the blood summons. He comes to mate with the hinds and may transform a comely woman for that purpose, or to cull the herd of the weak. Those who hear his drumbeat are doomed to run with the herd, and may follow him back to the hunting grounds, where they will be chased and unmade. You may meet the quick fox, who is invoked as Kulibeg, and who wields the wand of bone. He comes here to confound the mortal hunters, to run them in circles until they are so perplexed and wilded that they follow him over a cliff or into the trackless mire. He may fill you with such fury that you can do naught but pursue him, or he may note you as clever and teach you his tricks. You may meet the mighty bear, who is invoked as Horokibeg. He embodies the totem of claw and fang and comes seeking solitude, peace from labor, and renewal of the burning spirit within. Beware, if you rouse him and disturb his serenity, you will be torn asunder. But if you approach him with deference and an offering of honey-sweet mead, he may grant you the power of bare heart in your next fight. These are the 5. There are no more, and any who say so are witless and foolish. Stowe states Orankanch, and whatever I have been proven false, I have said it, and it is so. Pass the Juniper draft. Bangkorai, Shield of High Rock. King Aemon's final address to his troops. Knights of St. Pelen, Evermore Guard, free-born militia of Monmouth and Ephes, soldiers of Bangkorai, ever have we been the shield of High Rock, the first line of defense for the Breton kingdoms against the invaders from the east. Time and again the Bretons of Evermore and her surrounding regions have taken up arms to garrison Bangkorai Pass and turn away those who would pillage and plunder our homeland. In the year 874 of the First Era, when Warlord Thuleg's army of orcs and goblins was driven from Hammerfell by the Red Guards, we denied them passage through the pass and forced them to flee northeast, trudging all the way through the Dragontail Mountains before they finally reached Orsinium. Not a single goblin made its way through our pickets into our homeland. Then in 1029, when the legions of the Empress Hestra disposed King Sturich of the vampire Vekrith, he fled west at the head of his dreaded grey host, burning and killing as they came. But when his army of batmen and wolves reached the Bangkorai garrison, they broke like a wave on a rock. Hestra's legions caught and killed the survivors, and the Empress was so impressed that she honored High Rock with admission into the First Empire. When after almost 1,000 years under the Ruby Throne, the excesses of the Alessian Order forced High Rock to secede from the First Empire, the monks of Cyrodiil decided not to let us go peaceably. In 2305, under the Abbot General Pisces Mercator, the legions of piety and grace were sent to bring Bretons back into the fold. Mercator's fanatics filled the wet fallen waste from end to end, but they could not pass the Bangkorai garrison. And after a 5-month siege, with the pious turning on the grateful, the Abbot General was forced to admit defeat and plod back to Cyrodiil in disgrace. Only once has the garrison failed to protect High Rock. When Durokok's Reachmen horde poured down the south shore of the river, filtering through the northwest spine that had protected us before. Then Evermore was sacked, and the garrison taken from behind. But even then, we bought High Rock enough time that the Breton kingdoms were able to muster their troops and eventually repulse Durok of Daggerfall. Today, invaders from the east threaten us once again in the form of an Imperial Legion from Cyrodiil. But these are not the legendary warriors of an Empress Hestra, or the disciplined soldiers of an Emperor Reachmen. These are the degraded mercenaries of the Tharn Usurpers. Indeed, this legion is even led by a cousin of that decadent and faithless family. And who is this Magus General Septima Tharn? What battles has she won, beyond bullying freeholders with their back taxes? What barrel scrapings are these so-called legionaries she brings to pollute our homeland with their heretical Daedra-worshipping ways? I say they are scum, a desecration of the once noble name Imperial Legion. I say they are a rabble, and I say that, with us manning the walls, that they shall not pass the Bangkorai garrison. What say you, Knights of St. Pelen, Evermore Guard, freeborn militia of Monmouth and Ephes, soldiers of Bangkorai? Will we betray the blood of our ancestors and allow enemies through the pass? Never, I say. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. I hope you've been enjoying these lore readings, and if you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Also, come follow me over on twitch.tv/ICYIC, where I stream the Elder Scrolls Online 4 days a week. I'd love to see you there. Thanks for watching.